and I usually host these awesome AF Aware classes with Kenneth. So thanks for showing up, everybody. We're so glad you could come. This is super important, especially for the state of the world. I feel like I say that every time though. The state of the world right now, like it can't get worse, but it seems like it has like a lot. But I guess as the state of the world continues to go nutso, this is an important topic to remember to kind of take a step back for sure, and put on your own oxygen mask and figure out how to, you know, take care of yourself so you can be the change you want to see around you. So we should have a great discussion about it tonight. We're so grateful that Kenneth could be here. Kenneth is a local therapist here in American Fork. So if you feel like you have things you want to talk to him about that, you know, you don't want to talk to him about in front of all of us, then you're welcome to, we usually put his contact info, email, at least in the chat before the end. I'll make sure it gets in the chat. So if you want to contact him to talk to him outside of this context, you're obviously welcome to do that. I wanted to give a little plug, well, for a couple of things going on at the library coming up soon. The one big one that relates to this AF Aware meeting is that the last Friday of this month, we are starting a 6-month, once a month couples, what did we call it? Like couples class. It's called Better Together is what it's called on Eventbrite. But for any couples who just, you know, want to feel like they can make their relationship better, want tips, want ideas, want help with their relationship, we're starting that. That Kenneth is also teaching that for us starting, I should have had that date right in front of me, and for some reason I don't. It is the 29th of January is the first one. You don't have to be at the first one to come to the rest, but they will be one a month, and they'll all be different and have different different things to learn and different things to do. So all 6 of them will definitely be worthwhile if you are in a relationship at all. Then should be some really great info. There are also a few other things going on at the library coming up that are pretty exciting. Another big one is if you're a Harry Potter fan, Bloomsbury always does every year a worldwide Harry Potter celebration the first Thursday of February. And we usually have a huge in-person crazy town event at the library. Obviously we can't do that this year, so we are putting together, the theme this year is Diagon Alley, so we're putting together shopping bag kits with all the different stores in it so that you can kind of have the experience of going to a bunch of the different stores in Diagon Alley. So that is also an Eventbrite if you want to participate in that and come get a kit. If you're a Harry Potter fan, that's coming up. So those are my 2 big events that I have. And also paint nights we do at the library. If you're local, you can get a kit for paint night with everything that you need to do the painting. This month's painting is kind of a more intermediate landscape that we're doing. So keep an eye out if you're at all interested in that. I just secured some funding so that we can do more kits. We were only doing 30 kits a month, and now we're going to do at least 50 kits every month, so more people can participate. So anyway, that's exciting stuff coming up soon at the library. I think we should probably go ahead and get started. We have quite a few people here, and hopefully you know, people will continue to trickle in as they figure out the technical stuff. So anyway, so I will stop talking now and turn the time over to Kenneth. If you would like to pin his video, if you just click on the 3 dots up in the corner of Kenneth Jepson, should give you a drop down menu, and you can pin him so that he's the one you see throughout the class. Then that's how you do that. And I'll turn the time over to Kenneth. Thanks, Kenneth.
Thank you, Edith. Welcome everyone to the first class of 2021 here. I think we are all very glad that 2020 is over. I feel like we should probably just get patches for it. Like we need a merit badge, not even like I survived 2020, but just like the 2020, put that on our sash.
That
Like,
went right on.
really, it meant something that we survived this so far. And it was a hard year in a lot of different ways, and everyone's kind of struggled in their own way. And I've had times too this last year where I've struggled and I felt kind of stuck and I felt kind of powerless. And during those times, I felt like really dissatisfied with life. And everything I do seems kind of empty. I'm going through the motions, but it's like I'm not getting the reward for it. And it's just one thing after another. It turns into this horrible, the weeks are just interminable and they're just blah and they repeat and it's just the same thing. And I don't feel good. And it's kind of like putting water into a bucket that has no holes. So you got this pointless routine. And like during the work week, I'm looking forward to the weekend and the weekend's here and I'm worried about the next week and I just don't feel good, you know? And no matter how much Netflix I fill the time with, I never feel okay. And it kind of makes me avoid people. And it leads me to wear the same pair of sweatpants with the same chocolate stain from when I made chocolate way, way back weeks ago, you know? You guys know what I'm talking about here? Does this sound familiar at all? Maybe you're like me, that when you feel like this, your natural response is to kind of withdraw and pull back from human interaction. But some of you respond kind of in an opposite way. You feel like this, you're like, okay, put your head down, nose to the grindstone, let's do more. And you really start to overfunction. Either way, it's kind of the same result. It puts us into this state where we just feel like things are not enough. We don't have enough. We're not getting what we need. And it kind of feels like we're drowning and we're just trying to like breathe through a straw. We're getting just enough air to survive, but we're not living. And there's this constant sense of anxiety and malaise, and it just sucks. And everything we seem to do doesn't make it better. And sometimes the worst part of that is the fact that when we're in those moments, we don't feel like we deserve to get better. Any of you ever felt like that? You don't have time for you, you don't deserve the time that it would take? I think we've all gone through these times. We've gotten stuck. Sometimes we've gotten stuck for weeks or months, and we go through these cycles where we're just down, and then eventually something changes. We kind of pull back up out, and things are more normal again. Have you ever wondered why that happens? And did you know that we don't actually have to go through those cycles? We don't have to ride the roller coaster constantly. We don't have to be miserable and feel empty all the time. The thing that makes those ups and downs happen in the first place is when our self-care slips. When we don't know how to take care of ourselves, or when we stop taking care of ourselves, that's when we start that downward cycle. And very often we don't really notice it until it's too late. And you know, we hear this word self-care a lot these days, but we don't really, hard to know what it means because we don't talk about that as a culture, and I don't think we're very good at it, quite honestly. I mean, our parents, all the self-care they really taught us was like, eat your vegetables and brush your teeth. Important, don't get me wrong, but like, it's not enough. And we had their example countering what they taught us. We saw them stay up too late, eat too much junk food, skip exercise, work too much, always being busy, vegging out in front of the TV. So we don't have a very clear picture of what self-care really is, and that causes a lot of problems. And I know it did for me. As I was going through my master's degree, they're like, look, guys, okay, you're seeing clients now, you're doing school, and sometimes some of you work, and you're seeing clients, you got to do self-care. And I was like, yeah, I got to do self-care. Never bothered to define what that was. And I remember this particular weekend. It was in my last semester, I think, and I was kind of swamped because I was working and I had clients I was seeing, I had homework, I had papers to write, and you just feel like you're trying to drink from a fire hose. And I was feeling so overwhelmed, and hearing this like self-care ring in my head, I thought, yeah, I'm going to take care of myself this Saturday. I'm not going to do anything. And I woke up and I did nothing. I sat in my little chair and I turned on the TV, and we had satellite in the place I was renting, so we were like rich people. So turned on Turner Classic Movies and watched something in black and white. And then I played Minecraft on my laptop, and I think I probably played for like 12 or 13 hours that day because I needed some time for me. I needed to feel okay. And so when the day was done, I felt still horrible. And the next week came around, and I still felt the same level of stress. Clearly, what I did was not actually caring for myself. Here I was like a student learning how to help people take care of their problems, and I didn't understand it. I didn't know how to take care of myself. And I got so tired of this because I noticed through the course of my life, I would go through these ups and downs, and I would just have like months where I was just feeling crappy. And I finally got tired enough of it that I decided to try to figure out what caused it. I realized my actions were directly influencing the quality of my life. And so I started studying myself like a scientist. I got my journal out, and in the down times, in the times where I was descending down, and the times I was coming up, I was like, what am I doing right now? Why do I feel this way? What haven't I been doing? And it made me feel just really dumb because I spent months, I probably spent 9 or 10 months studying myself. And a lot of times I was like, I have no idea. I just kept going, I kept tracking. And at the end of those 9 or 10 months, I started to notice some patterns emerging. If your life is full of these ups and downs, the thing that's going to fix it is knowing how to take care of yourself. And once I figured out what I needed to do, I made a flow chart and I put it on the back of my door. And anytime I was miserable, I'd go look at the chart and be like, okay, have I done this? Yes. Okay, did I do that? No. Oh, okay, do this. And so it was just like a very simple formula. Be sad, then do that. And it has really transformed things. I do not go through the huge ups and the huge downs. I still have them. I'm a normal human, but it's so much less intense than it used to be. So if you really put self-care into your life, if you study yourself and figure yourself out, you can attain this just new higher level of functioning because we kind of have a default groove. Everybody just has their own groove that they bump through life in. And when it's lower and life comes and clobbers us, we drop and sometimes we bottom out. And my wife knows what that's like too. She struggled with depression. And when we got married, her lows would be, she'd sit on the couch and she'd watch Netflix, and that was about it. And it was hard for me because I'm like, could you do the dishes? I'm busy here doing this, and I'm doing all the laundry and all the dishes, and it caused problems in our marriage. And as she's learned more about self-care, her lows now are totally different. She still does some Netflix for sure, but sometimes she'll just put it on the tablet and be like, okay, well, I'm miserable, but dishes still need to get done. And so she cleans stuff, and by keeping that momentum going, it actually helps her to feel better. So her lows are like not bad, not so bad anymore for me or for her. So I want you to learn tonight about what self-care really is. And I want you to know what the common issues are that we struggle with when it comes to self-care. Because in the end, it's pretty simple, but the reasons we struggle to make it happen, those are a little bit more difficult. I don't want you to have to go through the years of ups and downs like I have. I don't want your kids to have to go through that either. Not knowing about self-care as a kid, as a teenager, it impacted me. It hit me hard. I was depressed. I was one of those dark, moody teenagers who liked to draw skulls on everything. I was distant and I was angry. And it was because I was missing those basic ingredients of how to take care of myself. And it's such a common thing in our culture. We think, oh, they're just a moody teenager. Like, no, they're not. They're depressed. And the reason they're depressed is because they don't know how to take care of themselves. It's suffering that's so unnecessary. And it's at a horrible time for them to be experiencing this because this is like when they're getting ready to launch. This is when you're starting to like hand over all of their agency to them incrementally. They're learning like, how do I take care of myself? How do I cook food? How do I balance a budget? I mean, those are just some of the practical things, let alone like the inner things that we need to take care of. And then they turn 18 and we're like, okay, here's the keys to your life. And Like, no wonder this whole generation is kind of depressed. I mean, the economy has had some definite struggles. The cost of housing is ridiculous. You can't just walk out and get a job in a factory anymore and buy a house or take care of a family on that. The world's changed, and we haven't adjusted what we've taught our kids. And so they're seeing this. And so many of them are full of depression and anxiety, and they're really worried about functioning in the world. It's because they're not practicing it now. And it's because we don't really know how to teach them, because we're not so great at it ourselves. So I want kids to figure this out. I want you to figure this out, because this impacts everybody. And we have to start with ourselves. We can't teach people what we don't know. And the whole, do as I say, not as I do, it's a fantasy. It'd be really nice if that worked, but the reality is monkey see, monkey do. And our kids pick up on what we do. The people around us are influenced by us. They say that you're the composite of the 5 people you spend the most time around. You notice, like, you start to pick up their mannerisms and their patterns. And if your friends are staying up late, you're probably staying up late with them. And that can be really hard when you're just trying to, like, get enough sleep to function, and your friends are like, no, come hang out with us. So it really matters what we do, because we impact everyone else around us. So when we don't work on self-care, when we don't know how to work on self-care, it usually makes us pretty miserable. And we're not really attaining to our potential. Because of that, it makes it really hard for us to take care of the people around us. Now, some of you think that you can fake it. Some of you think that you're Wonder Woman and you can do it. Nobody will notice, but there are things that are not happening, and things that are happening when you're not taking care of yourself that you're not aware of. And it does cause issues, and the kids see that, the people around us see it, and they pick it up. When we don't show up for ourselves, we cannot show up for the people around us, not in the way that they really need it. And that not taking care of ourselves begins to impact other relationships, with your significant other. If you're having struggles in your romantic relationship, I can guarantee there are things that you're not doing for self-care that would begin to help fix some of that. Because if we don't feel good, we're grumpy and it's easier. We pull away, we're distant, or we engage more. Maybe we're too aggressive and we fight more. And that's just one of the ways that a lack of self-care can impact our relationships. It bothers me. The whole lack of self-care thing bothers me, because, like I said, it's a suffering that's unnecessary. We are capable of so much more happiness. I just hate watching people passing years of their lives and being stuck in misery. I have a family member, and he has kind of been stuck at the lowest level of living for his entire adult life. He didn't know how to take care of himself. His parents didn't know how to teach him how to take care of himself. And nowadays, all he has to talk about is health complaints. Because he couldn't take care of himself on a basic level, he never learned to rise up to other levels. Because as we go through life demands stuff of us. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's an energy requirement of life. And it gets, like, exponentially complex as we get in a relationship or have kids. Like, life is difficult. And if we can't manage the basic stuff, we struggle in all the areas. It's like self-care is the foundation. We have to have it solid so that we can build on it. And so because he didn't know this, because he didn't have it figured out, he never really got an education of any kind. He never moved out of his parents' house. He doesn't have skills. He's struggling for money. He's just called the other day. He wrote some checks and didn't check his account first, and now he's overdrafted. So here he has no money, and he's getting hit with overdraft fees. This has been happening for years, and he's not doing anything about it. He doesn't really know how to take care of himself, and that's a big part of the problem. We've got to be able to take care of the lower levels of our life.
I have a question. And maybe I'm sure you're probably getting there, but I just keep thinking that because self-care is kind of a buzzword that gets thrown around a lot, and people label things as self-care that make us think self-care is something that it's not, at least not for everybody. You know what I mean? Like some people say, oh, I have to, I'm going to get a massage. That's my self-care. Or I'm going to, whatever.
That's self-care.
That is expensive self-care. And maybe that's good and works for some people, but then I think we think of things like going to get a massage as the only things that self-care are. And then we go, ain't nobody got time for that. And then, or money for that, or whatever. And then we go, I just can't do self-care. And then we just put our head down and our shoulders down and plow, keep plowing ahead without doing it. I think that's where most of us are, is that we don't really know what it means to take care of ourselves and what is important to take care of ourselves and what's not important to take care of ourselves, if that makes sense. And then we try and do the things that aren't important, like, oh, I have to go get a massage every week or whatever. And then we feel guilty for spending that time and that money doing the thing that doesn't really help us anyway. I mean, for some of us, I'm not saying a massage doesn't help a lot of us, because I'm sure it does. But I'm just saying, whatever the thing is, we spend time and money on doing sometimes things that aren't really feeding us, but they're the only self-care things we know to do. And we're like, this is supposed to help. And yet now I just feel the same, except on top of that, I have the guilt of spending that time and money doing something that didn't seem to help.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping I come out of this with a flow chart like yours. Are you going there? Are you going to help us do that for? Okay.
And if you guys don't have notes ready, please get them ready, because knowing what to do is important. And when you actually make a plan and do it, it's absolutely life-changing. Back to my wife, I asked her as I was preparing this, what do you think people need to know about self-care? And she told me, tell them that it can turn the night into day. And we were talking about one of the times
when it's done right.
When it's done right. And it doesn't take much. In that specific moment, she did a couple of basic things that cost no money. And what started out as a really miserable day ended where she was like, we've had a great night. This is wonderful. So what would that be like? I mean, think about how much you could accomplish and the kind of peace that you could be enjoying if you didn't have to live in burnout and stress all the time. I want you to be able to avoid these cycles so that you can have more peace in your life. And I want you to walk out of here tonight with a plan so that you know what to do next. And then as you practice it and get good at it, you're going to become a guru at self-care. And then I hope you will teach others and help them to get us unstuck too. Because I was stuck for years. Like I said, and it was years of being stuck and going through the cycles, but then it was 9 or 10 months of incredible study to figure out what was going on in my life. And I'm hoping to hear, by giving you the plan of like, here's what you're going to be looking for. I'm giving you some spoilers, but I think you'll appreciate them, because you can kind of go to the list and go through the chart and be like, hey, what am I missing here? And then do the experimentation to figure out exactly what you need in your life. So you're smart for being here tonight. Getting an education is smart. It saves you time, it saves you struggle, and then you get to teach other people. And man, I hope you will choose to teach other people, because we are sick as a country, and you can feel it. Self-care has a lot to do with it. And you may wonder, how is self-care related to politics? Trust me, it is. Our country is only as healthy as the citizens who live in it. And the people who take true care of themselves are capable of revolution. The people who don't take care of themselves are the ones who just destroy in the name of revolution. There's so much bitterness out there. There's so much anger. There's violence. There's not listening to each other. The Rachel Maddows and the Rush Limbaughs of the world have been really successful in their campaigns to turn us against each other, to make us think in terms of us versus them, and enemy, and we good, you bad. We've broken down into factions, and it's causing absolute gridlock in Congress. There's so much fighting going on. We've had riots, and we have had people calling for civil war. 20 years ago, this would have been so out of the realm of possibility. Sure, we fought back then too, but the effects of the words we've been using are starting to come to fruition, and the chickens are coming home to roost. And we are at a critical point in history.
And clearly it's not only the words we've been using for each other, but we've started using those same judgments about ourselves that has,
It has an impact.
yeah, that has caused.
And all of that has driven us to this point. And it is a critical point in history. And I'm not talking about who sits in the White House. It's the division that's destroying us. And we need people who know how to take care of themselves so that they can take care of others, to truly know how to take care of others and give them what they need so that they can heal them and begin to heal our country. And that's the order that it goes: individual, work on your inner circle, and then bigger change. And I think we get way too caught up in saving the world when we haven't really learned how to save and take care of ourselves. So I hope you'll see that we're not just talking about how to deal with stress. Self-care is so much wider than you may have thought. And I hope you will take notes and make a plan for this, because most of all, I hope that you will join me in my quest. We are at a crossroads and we are at a tipping point, and I think everybody feels that. We're on the edge of something that could be really bad. And we're going to need people who can take a stand for goodness, not in mobs and riots, not by mouthing off on social media, but to truly do something in their community, where when people act with anger and hate, they don't respond with anything but love. We need healers who are going to bridge the divide and heal rifts. And we need love in society before we can restore sanity. And I have sworn an oath in the presence of my higher power that I will unite instead of divide, and I will bring people together. And if I stand alone on that, if nobody joins me, then we are truly doomed. And so I hope you will listen tonight to your heart and answer that call. And I hope you will realize just how far-reaching your daily actions are and how much what you do matters. If we're going to save our country, we definitely need to start with us. And so self-care. Let's define it. What is it? Self-care is when you take care of your needs. Pretty simple, right? But easy to get confused, because we often think that self-care has to be something fancy, or it has to be taking care of whims or doing anything we want. Like when I was in college and I was playing video games because it's what I wanted. It wasn't what I needed. And so after that week of misery, I thought, all right, back to the drawing board. Let's see, what was I doing wrong here? How can I fix this? And so I had the realization, like, I wonder if maybe self-care has to do with taking care of our needs. And while a massage might be a need for some days, it's not always a need. There have been some days where it is a need, but not always. And our needs are much more basic than that. And so the next week after that, I decided my needs were, I should probably get on top of my homework. I need to clean this big sty of a room that I live in because it's making me feel anxious. And I need to make sure that all my projects are ready. I'm caught up on my session notes and everything. And so that Saturday, I made a plan. It's like, okay, I'm going to work on this paper for 2 hours. I'm going to finish this thing here. I'm going to work on this test, get that done, read this chapter. Then I'm going to give myself full permission to do what I want. Because sometimes we do need to do what I want. And I decided I would allow myself to play Minecraft after I was done with all my stuff. And when I was finished, it was a real night and day difference. Because the week before that, it was just running from my problems. I knew I needed to do stuff, and it was in the back of my mind gnawing at me. And I was just ignoring it. I was procrastinating. Procrastination is not self-care. And so when I was done and I'd made that plan and I started to play Minecraft, I felt so much joy. I was giggling with delight. They had just added horses to the game, and I had a saddle, and I rode my little horse around that 8-bit world. It was magical, and I was just giddy with delight. And I was like, this is so fun. I love this. The week before, I was like, miserable, like, still not happy. I'll just play another hour. We'll see if that works. We'll go all day if we have to. It really changes things. So I thought a lot about how to break this topic down and make it simple. And I kind of ended up on domains. The physical domain, mental domain, right? And so that's the first one to write down in your notes. When it comes to self-care, look at the physical, and I would recommend looking at this first because it gets neglected. When you feel crappy, start looking at this one. The things that my wife did when she said it turned the night to day. She chose to get up and brush her teeth. She took a shower, and then she put on some makeup. She was taking care of those needs. And then she built momentum, and she started just with a one little cleaning project. Clean the bathroom, did a load of dishes, and then it started to build momentum. At the end of the day, she was happy. She felt really good. She felt really content. And she'd ended up cleaning the whole house. So physically, that has a couple of like subdomains, right? There's your area, your stewardship, your living space is part of your physical domain. And when your room's a mess, when there's laundry everywhere, you can't feel totally good. And sometimes we get so used to it, we don't even recognize what a problem it is. I've had so many times where we've cleaned our room and we've organized everything and we just go, I feel like I can breathe again. I didn't even know that I couldn't breathe at the time. So self-care in the physical realm might mean clean that thing that you've been putting off forever. Go start the dishwasher, do the laundry, get it out of the pile, fold it, put it in your chest of drawers, hang everything up on hangers. That'll really change things. You got to have order in your space, because when there's chaos outside and around you, you feel chaos inside. The other physical domain is your body. Obviously, it needs to be cleaned. So yeah, sometimes that means it's time to take a shower. Maybe you brush your teeth, or you put on deodorant, or decide to just put on clothes. I mean, sweatpants have just become a way of life in the pandemic. And when you actually put on shoes and pants and you go outside, you're like, oh, look at me, I'm an adult. You kind of remember a little bit of who you are. Besides that, hygiene, we need to feed ourselves. And obviously, we're supposed to feed ourselves what our bodies were meant to run on. And for our entire existence as a species, except for the last 70 years, there was no such thing as processed food. And we didn't have sugar in everything. And we used to have variety in our food. We used to eat hundreds of different kinds of food. Our ancestors, they've done analyses, and they found out that there were so many different types of food. They ate everything. And nowadays, we eat corn, soy, and wheat, and sugar. And that's about it. And we've made a zillion products out of those 4 ingredients. And boy, have the food scientists had a field day in making them addictive. They get the mouth feel just right, and the color that pops and gets our brain's attention, and the crunch. But we know those things aren't great for us. And so when we just add in some vegetables, some actual natural things, you'd be amazed how much different you feel. My wife and I decided to give up sugar 3 days ago. And Heidi was just telling me, like, I'm amazed at how much better I feel now that I'm not inflamed all the time. And all this water weight dropped out because she felt better. And the other part of taking care of our body is we need to move it. Some people don't like exercise. I get it. Not a huge fan of it myself. But it's just kind of a physiological need. And I'm not talking about weight loss. Please don't get weight loss tied up into self-care when it comes to exercise and movement. Self-care sometimes is just stretching. And sometimes I wake up and I sit in my living room and I just stretch because I hurt. And I hurt because I'm not moving enough. So if that's a problem, do some yoga, do some stretching, hop on YouTube. I know this is simple stuff, but it's so basic and we don't do it. And when we are in a consistent groove of like moving our body, taking it through its range of motion, that lubricates the joints. Motion is lotion, as they say. And that keeps us from ossifying and turning into like bent over old people with arthritis. You probably notice people who are really old and they're all bent over, and you look at their profile and their head super far forward. And I saw a guy who was almost 90 degrees bent over at the store the other day. And you look at that and go, oh my gosh, that looks like it hurts. And it does. And the way he got there was his muscles in the front started getting tight, because we're all used to using keyboards and mice and looking at our phones. And when those muscles get tight, they pull us out of alignment. And then gravity starts working on us and bends us forward more. And those muscles get used to being in this stretched position, and they are tight. If you ever rub somebody's neck who's had bad posture, muscles don't release. They're holding tight going, I can't let up or they're going to break in half. These joints are going to pop apart. And so like just slow daily not taking care of our body, we can really become hunched over and our body starts to make actual physical changes. So we need to stretch. It's so simple, but some stretching videos. Stretch those pecs too. Those always are way too tight. So that's the physical domain, right? The order of your environment and your body. Clean it, feed it, move it. Mentally, there's a couple of subdomains. We got 3 things in this category. Humans have a need to learn. And if we're not learning something new, life can get really boring. We can feel really stuck, kind of stultified. Number 2, we need to feel creative. We need to do things that are creative. And you don't have to take up knitting. I mean, it could be writing a poem. It could be art. It could be anything creative. Learning to code, that's a creative endeavor. I have been trying to design my dream house. I downloaded a 3D rendering program. I've been learning how to use it, and I'm making my dream house in that. And it's fun. It's creative. The third thing we need is recreation. Now, hear me very carefully on this one. Recreation is not mindless distraction. Mindless distraction is the opposite of self-care. Scroll through your phone and playing the game where you poke little colored things until they pop and reward your dopamine. That's not self-care. Recreation it may include doing things like that, but the motive's going to be different. You may say, like, after I get all my work done, I will allow myself to play some games on my phone, but it's not going to be hours where you're just stuck there, right? Mindlessness is not recreation. And it's also really important during those times to give yourself permission, but more on that in a minute. When we're doing the basic stuff and we're going to work and we're eating food and taking care of the house, but we start to kind of feel bored with life, it's usually because this mental domain is lacking. We need to go play. We've forgotten how to play very often as adults. We need to do something where there's maybe no rules. Have you been to a swing set lately? Swings are fun. You liked them when you were younger. They're still fun now. Highly recommend swing set. There's a quote I really like from Alexander Denier, and he said, "You're not tired because you've done too much, but because you've done too little of what sparks a light in you." I love that. The creator Calvin and Hobbes said something very similar. He said, the human mind is like an engine. It charges the battery by running. We think like we need to come home from work and plop down in front of the TV, but that's turning our mind off. We need to do something that engages us and gets us feeling creative. And when we do, oh, it's different. It's just a wonderful, different experience of life. I went to a painting class with my wife a little bit ago, and we went and bought a little paint set. And for a while there, I was painting every night. We threw the office on in the background, but it was actually kind of distracting. I almost wanted some silence because it was just fun to learn how to do something new. And I'm terrible at it, and that's fine. It's fun. And so the next domain, we've taken care of the 3 ones in the mind, which is learning, creativity, and recreation. And again, I'm trying to give you like a basic overview. There's way more or human needs than this, but if you're hitting all these, you're probably going to be pretty balanced in life. The next domain is spiritual, and this doesn't have to mean religious. Spiritual can just refer to the sense that we all have this inner life, and we have values, we have things that matter to us, and sometimes we can get disconnected from those. And so the first part of our spiritual need is for a connection to ourself. And that just starts with being aware of our body. When we feel anxiety, we tend to try to distract ourselves. When we feel emotions we don't like, we try to stuff them, try to cover them with food or keeping busy, doing too much. And we really miss out on something. Even when what our body has to tell us isn't very pleasant, there is a power and a peace that comes from self-connection. Sometimes we just need silence. We need to just sit with no distraction, with no intention, nothing to do. And we just need to go, what do I feel? What kind of physical sensations do I feel? What kind of emotional sensations do I feel? And if we learn to listen to ourselves, our emotions are teaching us so much. They're a feedback system for life. They tell us when our life is on track. When it's in alignment, our emotions feel good, we feel positive, we feel confident. And if we're feeling hopeless, if we're feeling anger, if we're feeling just kind of, that's your body's way of trying to tell you something's wrong. And if you ignore the warning signs and keep doing what you're doing, you keep getting crappy results. So being connected to yourself is a super important spiritual need. Another part of that is connecting to the divine. If you have any kind of religious belief, that could be a part of it. If you don't, that's not a problem either. Connecting to the divine within can just be connecting to the goodness inside of you, recognizing your strengths, and gratitude is the doorway to get there. When we can pause and be grateful, we open ourselves up to incredible light and peace. So you could call it the divine, you could call it gratitude. The third spiritual need, and I debated about putting this on here, but it is so important, I decided to keep it anyway, is when we connect with ourselves, we can't be there in a spirit of judgment or meanness or finding fault in ourselves. It's okay to notice where we're lacking and make a plan to fix it, but most of all, the need we have is compassion. We need to give ourselves compassion. We need to realize that it's okay for us to be where we're at. Wherever we are, it's fine. And we can accept that, because if we do, we can move forward. But if we reject it and fight against it, we can kind of end up getting stuck there. The fourth domain is the interpersonal one. This is where our relationships come in. We need connection with other people, and not just light, shallow connection. We need to have deeper ones. We need to have people that we can talk about our hopes and dreams to, not just our opinions, but that we can share our feelings, where we can feel loved by them, where we can feel safe and accepted. There are your four big domains. And every one of us is different.
Will you
It's kind
name
of like
those
each one
again,
of us.
Kenneth, before you move on? So the first one is physical.
Physical, which consists of taking care of your body, clean it, feed it, move it, and taking care of your environment, cleaning up your space, your stewardship. Next one is mental, which requires you to learn and grow, be creative, and to have fun, to recreate.
And then spiritual is third.
Spiritual, we need to connect to ourselves. We need to have compassion for ourselves and connect to the divine or gratitude. Kind of the same thing anyway.
Okay, thank you.
And finally, interpersonal. We need to connect with others, but in a deep way where we feel safe, where we feel loved and accepted. And humans are imperfect, so that one's always going to be a little iffy. Even the people closest to us, we don't necessarily feel fully loved and accepted by all the time, and that's normal. So you'll notice as you start to look for these in your life that some are more important than others. Each one is like a battery. And once you get a charge, that charge may last you a long time. I can go a long time with isolation. I'm pretty good. I don't need a ton of human contact. Of course, when I get really low on it, I start feeling like neurotic, and then I think I need more alone time, and it makes it worse. So that's, if you're an introvert, remember that one. You need human connection. But I've found what my daily needs are, and if I do nothing else, for me, I know that I need some time connecting with my higher power. And if I do nothing else, and I do that, I can still kind of keep my head above water and not have my life like run into a brick wall. So you'll need to do some study and some experimentation in your own life. Now, I know that these domains don't really come as a shock to you. We can know very generally what we need. It's pretty simple to say, oh yeah, I need exercise and vegetables. But in the moment when we feel crappy, we've descended in our energy level and we're kind of in a dark mist. And we don't have the awareness when we're in the darkness to see what our problem is. And that's why this list is going to be important, because you can go and read through and say, what am I not doing? Well, let me experiment with that. It's really hard to figure it out in the moment if you don't have a guide. So yeah, pull them out. This can be your list. Keep it somewhere where you can get at it. You may want to print it out and put it on the wall, and you can just write, are you happy? And maybe that can get your attention. So another reason we don't do it is because it takes effort. Everything good takes effort, and sometimes we feel lazy. But did you know that laziness and it is a manifestation of us not meeting our needs. If you're feeling lazy, if you're feeling unmotivated, I can guarantee you there are some things you're not doing. And while it can be hard to start and get the ball rolling, just taking a very tiny step, just the first step, can cause momentum for the next thing. And then it just falls like dominoes, where you get a little bit more energy and you roll that over into something higher and you keep leveling up. And what starts out as a miserable day can actually end really amazingly. So I would like to, we're going to have some Q&A in a bit here, but I'm interested to hear, what other kind of blocks have you personally run into when it comes to self-care? What are the things that get in the way? And you can put that in the chat box or unmute yourself.
I'll share. This is Marla Allred. So one of the things that gets in my way is my kids pulling me out of bed in the morning before I'm ready.
Mm.
And then my day's off to a start and I haven't had a chance to, like you said, take care of myself, have that mindful time, you know, and I have to like work the rest of the day to get there. In fact, one of the reasons my video isn't on because I didn't have that time this morning. And so I don't want to have my video on, but that definitely impacts my days, and some are better than others.
Yep, that's a common one. What time do they get up, Marla?
Oh, well, that's the funny thing, is it can range from 6 in the morning until 8, you know, depending on whether they feel my vibe. And if I'm up for some reason, they are up. So anyway.
You know, and there's a lot of times too when, because they get you up early, you stay up later to get things done that you need to get done while they're asleep. And then you're tired and you may end up sleeping more. And then, yeah, the day starts again. That can be really hard when there's not
that's a cycle. For sure.
Keep the kids up later.
we have a lot of people agreeing in the chat. Also saying time management issues, having the intention to do certain things, and then not following through or not being able to follow through with the plan, and then that's discouraging, and then that you know, starts a cycle.
Yeah. When it comes to these two, anyone else want to add anything?
I do. I know I'm always talking in these things, but when you were talking, it just reminded me of an article that I'm going to try and look up, and I will maybe put on the library site, or at least send a link out to the people who were on this Eventbrite, but that I found, or that somebody gave me actually a few years ago, about the myths of self-compassion, which I feel like is also the things that block us from self-care. And it went through all of the things that I was like, oh yeah, no, I totally believe that, 100%, 100%. And then it kind of knocked those down. So I think the 5 things were it, if I have self-compassion, or if I do self-care, it's a form of self-pity or weakness, or it'll make me complacent. Like if I don't stay after myself and beat myself up, and if I let myself do things that feed me, then it'll make me complacent or lazy, or it feels narcissistic and self-centered and selfish. So I think it's really easy, especially when you do have kids who need a lot of your time and energy and focus, to start feeling like doing anything that builds you up is selfish or self-centered or hurtful or is weak, or, you know, because you have all these responsibilities that you have to take care of. And I liked the article just because it went through all of those things and kind of knocked down why having compassion for yourself and doing for yourself is not that, and how it really, the oxygen mask metaphor works so, I mean, it's truer than we realize. But I think especially once you've been a mom for a few years and you're like in that groove of I have to do all the things, And I have to do anything that any of my kids ask of me, or I have to, I was going to spend this time doing this thing that would feed me, but my kid asks for something. And if I say no and they are sad about it, then I feel guilty. So I can't, there's just like an avalanche of kind of self-feeding things that make us feel like we don't deserve, or we're being selfish if we do things for ourselves, when in reality, what we have to understand, which maybe you can help us understand this better, is that doing things for ourselves first puts us in a better position. We're better examples for our kids. We're more present with our kids. We're more mindful. There's so many benefits for not just us of doing good things for ourselves. But it does feel selfish when there's so many people who we feel responsible for. If we have children, if we have a job, if we have, people who work for us, or if, a spouse or whatever, there are people that we have a calling. If we're in church, if we have other responsibilities, somehow all of those responsibilities feel like they're supposed to go before taking care of ourselves. And how do we shift that mindset?
Yeah. If I had to guess, I would say that almost probably everyone here tonight is here because they struggle with that. And that's one of the things I wanted to highlight, especially. Team management's one of them, and what we need to talk about that too. But that sense of like, other people come first, the kids come first, they're the highest priority, right? So how can I?
It's part of our culture too. Right. Selflessness is lauded and respected and loved, right? And so we feel like, in order to be lovable, I have to be selfless, which sometimes that is appropriate. But how do we know when those times are? Because it feels like all the time is when we're supposed to do for other people and not for ourselves.
And the philosophical belief we have there is that if anyone has a need, it always trumps mine. And theoretically, once I take care of everyone's needs, I might have some time for myself, but that's never really happened, right? And it's never going to. Others are always coming first, and they're never done. Why do we feel like this? Like Wendy said, it's so much a part of our culture. It goes even deeper than that. This is something that comes out of our history as humans living in tribes. We spent a lot of our existence as a species living in groups of 50 to 200 people. And the survival of the tribe was the thing that ensured the survival of the individual. And so on a deep level, deeper than we're even sometimes consciously aware of, we have a belief of the tribe matters more than me. We are very collectivistic in our thinking. And that means the needs of others come first. And it's a survival strategy that usually works, because if you make sure that you're always serving and taking care of other people, then most likely when you get sick or have a broken leg, the tribe's going to take care of you. So this has just been baked into our DNA because it was effective. It definitely worked. But it kind of overwhelms the importance of the individual. And then we feel miserable all the time. We're so busy taking care of everyone else. And the lie that exists at the core of this is very often, I don't matter unless I take care of others. My value comes from what I do for others. And so we're always trying to earn our self-worth. And if we feel crappy, we just haven't done enough, so we need to help others. And people end up running themselves ragged, having nervous breakdowns, because that is not a sustainable way of living. I understand it feels so true. It feels like we don't matter. It feels like everyone else matters first. But I gotta tell you, a therapist, that's just wrong. It's a lie, and it's a lie that we need to get rid of. Just like Wendy mentioned.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I feel like too, part of it, this just occurred to me, but I feel like part of it is we're kind of always, because we're so busy, because we have so many responsibilities, we're always looking for easy answers or kind of mindless ways to make sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to. And that's an easy, mindless fallback, right? And so we don't have to think about it. We don't have to stop and go, wait, should I do this or should I do this other thing for myself? Can I say no to this person who's asked me to do something, even if I don't have anything else to do? Is it okay? And if we have to think through that and like try and parse it, that's hard. That's hard work. It's hard mental work to figure out what we should do, what we want to do, what is the right thing to do, you know, parse out which of those things are most important, that kind of stuff. And so I think sometimes it becomes just the easy answer, right? Just
True.
just drop myself and do the thing.
Habit as well.
You know, right? It's all about like it's an easy way to I feel like I can't articulate it super well, but I feel like it's just kind of habit. Like you said, it's just habit. And it becomes the easy thing to do, and we don't realize that we're hurting ourselves by doing it in the moment until later we feel awful and we don't know why. But it's just another good reason to try and be self-aware and have that connection with ourselves and go, okay, what's making me feel this way? Because I feel like sometimes we think of if we stop and do some, like, put ourselves above anybody else, then that's automatically going to make us selfish every time an opportunity for service comes up, or it's going to make us selfish every time, you know, it's going to make us self-centered and make us ignore everybody, or I don't know, it feels like an on-off switch is going to happen that feels heavy. And I think sometimes our brains just want us to go there and go, no, it's way too hard. Just do it the way you've always done it, and then you don't have to worry about it.
Can I have every one of you pull the dictionary out of your head and open up to your entry that says selfish? You need to rewrite that, because people think taking care of yourself is selfish. Meeting your own needs is selfish, and it's just not. What's selfish is showing a blatant disregard for other people and stepping on them to get what you want. But when you need to lock yourself in the bathroom and eat a candy bar without your children bothering you, it's not selfish. That's a need. That's a story from my mom's life.
Probably a story from every mom.
Many, yeah. We need to add an entry maybe that we call selfist. Someone who values their needs and other people's needs and make sure that everything is done with priority. Because look, we say, like, you know, family's my number one value. Family's number one. Cool. Number one, but like most people spend 8 hours a day working, not with their family. Because in order to take care of your family, you got to do other stuff. And in order to go to work, you really need to take care of yourself. And so the oxygen masks on the plane example is perfect. Those masks drop down, and it is your job to put it on you first. Because if you want to help anybody else, you need to be conscious. You are more important than your children are. There's just no getting around that.
At least in that minute, in that second.
Yeah. And maybe in a lot of other ways too. Because you can't, like I said, you can't show up for your kids if you don't do you first. And if you just give extra and the tank's empty and you're running on fumes, you're not really giving them what they need the most. They don't need this overwhelming quantity of every second of your time and have your life dominated by them. They do need some quality time, but it's also totally fine to say, okay, mommy's gonna read a book now. Okay.
I think too, sorry, I know I'm talking a lot, but I think too, I know this definitely happens to me or has happened to me, is that we give off vibes that we'll do for other people before we'll do for ourselves. And sometimes it's overt and sometimes it's subtle, but I think that because other people have needs too, they subconsciously take advantage of that. So
Yes.
when you do say no to other people when they ask you to do something and they expect you to be the one that always says yes, then it's not always your imagination that they are going to lay on the guilt for that, right?
Mhm.
Especially if you've always been the one that has said yes, right? Um, and so it might be them, or it might be just your interpretation of everything they say because you feel guilty. But I know that there have been times when my kids have asked me to do stuff and I've been like, oh, I had this plan to like fill my bucket today, but this is clearly something that they need. And so then I'll take a step back and be like, no, sorry, I can't do that today. I have other plans. And then the disappointment and and then I'm like, oh, why did I say no? And, and then there's that whole inner dialogue. Anyway, I think we need help with feelings of guilt and shame for not doing too, because I think it is so ingrained in us that we're selfish and that that's a bad thing if we don't always put other people first.
One thing that you're responsible to teach your children is how to handle disappointment. So you're doing them a favor there.
Oh yes, okay, all right, I'll keep that. I need to make a sign. I'm responsible for teaching my children disappointments.
Yep.
Though saying no to
Doing their
them
emotions.
when I could still do things for them is a good thing. That's
You don't want to raise a bunch of selfish brats, and they need to learn how to take care of themselves. And if your example is, I never matter, take care of everyone else, you're setting them for some real misery. It's a blessing and a gift to say, no, sorry, I'm really sorry, but I've got to do this for me today. There's a balance. Obviously, there's a balance to be struck, and you have to play it by ear. But we need to prioritize ourselves. If you're a churchy person, you've heard the whole love the Lord thy God with all your heart, might, mind, and strength. And the second commandment is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor. How? As thyself. So there's actually three great commandments.
Thyself is the given, right?
God,
it's supposed to be the given.
It's given. It's supposed to be. And that's the proper hierarchy. God, self, then others. And if you flip those two, it might be too strong. It's not too strong to say this. That is a satanic inversion of your values. And that's how he gets us. The devil's tricky. He guilts us. He puts all this shame on us and makes us feel miserable and deficient. And how the heck are we going to connect with God when we feel like we're a horrible, selfish person that's going to hell?
Great point.
Self-care is God approved. A-okay, number one. And again, when you show up for your kids and you show them, this is how to take care of yourself, you're giving them an incredible gift. So we need to get over that idea. Just get over it. It's not an easy thing. But challenge it. When it pops up and you start feeling guilty, remind yourself, my value doesn't come from what I do for others. I matter too. If everyone else matters, then so do I, because I'm not special. I'm not the only one in the universe who has to be the cosmic whipping child. As far as the time thing, managing our time, I think we need to remember this story from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 7th habit is to sharpen your saw. And the story in the book goes that there's some woodcutters sawing down trees, and these 2 woodcutters notice one guy who's sitting on a stump with his file going over his saw. They're like, you are wasting so much time. Look at you. You've been sitting there forever. And he's like, yeah, sure. And at the end of the day, the guy with the sharp saw done way more, because when your saw is sharp, it takes less effort. You get more done. But when we're dull and we're just like grinding on it, we slow down and we just get stultified. When I was working on my presentation here, I got so deep into like the forest where I couldn't see what the forest was. There were too many trees in front of me. And I pushed myself. I was just hours working on it. And I had to realize like, oh man, I'm dull right now. I'm taking a break. I'm going to the gym. And when I came back, I was sharp again, taking care of my needs. And I jumped back in and was able to finish everything up. So I know sometimes we don't believe that in our heart of hearts, but I'd like you to try and experiment. on all of these things, with being a selfist, with putting your needs as your top priority. Your happiness is the purpose of your life. It is the moral purpose of your life. And experiment with the time thing, and sometimes tell the kids no. And Marla, I don't know how old your kids are, and that can be a challenge when they're super young. I know for me, thankfully, if I go to bed early, I wake up at 5:20, and I'm thinking that's going to be maybe some of the only time I have for myself as soon as my kids show up. So we may have to make some adjustments, but maybe think to yourself, if I had a gun to my head and I was forced, I had to get in self-care, how would I make that happen? Because I know you could, if you absolutely had to. If somebody kidnapped your child and said, we're never getting your kid back unless you take care of yourself, you'd figure out a way. So try to think outside the box. All the excuses that come up right now, someone has overcome them. Someone has been in your same situation and they figured it out, and you can too. And I believe in you. And you know, sometimes the self-care, we think like, oh my gosh, I don't have time for this, but it's not nearly as much as you think. There was a time I was working on a project and I had all of these responsibilities weighing down on me, and I was just like feeling so like, and I came downstairs and I was just grumpy, and my wife's like, what's wrong? And I was like, I don't want to do this. She was like, well, what do you want to do? It doesn't matter what I want to do. I have to get my work done. And she's like, just tell me what you want to do. And I said, I want to read a book and I want to take a nap. And she's like, fine, give yourself permission. And I was like, okay, fine. I'm going to take a nap. I'm going to take a nap as long as I want. And I wanted a 30-minute nap so that I didn't sleep too long and get groggy. And so I petulantly went up to my room and I set my alarm for the longest power nap you can possibly get away with. When I woke up, felt a little better. Like, okay, now I want to read my book. Nobody can tell me what to do. I don't have to do my work. And I sat down with the book and I read for 15 minutes. And at the end of that time, I was like, I think I'm done. I feel good. I feel fine. I'm done reading. I want to go back to work. I want to go back to work. I don't have to. I wanted to. Sometimes it's just as simple as maybe taking 10 minutes and turning off the lights and turning off the screens, or heading over to the AF library and sitting in the meditation room.
That's right.
Connecting with yourself. And you'd be amazed at how much a little bit can contribute to your overall wellness. Because every single one of us needs it. It's not that there's just some types of people do self-care and some don't. We all need to learn and get good at it. And that just means practicing. If you have a body, you have to take care of it. If you have a mind, you have to take care of it. So it's just that simple. We need to realize we do it, we need it, and then do it. And when you're taking care of yourself and the guilt pops up and says, oh, you can't do this, you're taking time away from the kids, tell the little voice to shut up and go away because it's lying to you, and give yourself full permission. I had a staycation over Christmas and I was so worried about, is this going to be relaxing enough? That I just stressed the whole time, and it wasn't a good vacation at all. I was gonna bake every day. I was gonna pick recipes from the Great British Bake Show and have the best Christmas ever, and I was gonna get fat eating baked goods. Instead, I sat in anxiety and went through the same thing I normally did, and I scrolled through my phone, and instead of baking delicious treats, I got fat off eating just like junk candy you can buy at the store. That's not good chubbiness. It's not chubbiness made out of love and baked goods. That's not good. You have to give yourself permission. And so every time the voice pops up, just tell it like, I know you think I shouldn't, but you're the old way of doing things, and I know that I matter. My value doesn't come from what I give to others, and I need this, and I'm taking it, and I'm just going to enjoy it. You can't be pulling up the plant every 5 minutes to check the roots and see if it's growing. So just lean into it and enjoy that. So as you sat here tonight, you heard something that stood out to you, and I hope you already wrote that down. But if you didn't, definitely write down the aha moments, track them out, and one of those categories probably stood out too. And here's the plan. Choose one thing. I don't want you to overwhelm yourself. Just choose one of those things, and then start looking at how often do I probably need to do this. If it's a spiritual need, like connecting to yourself, I'm going to suggest you do that every day. And maybe that's only 3 minutes. If it's something like being creative, Maybe that's once a week, maybe even less. I can kind of put my head down and plow through and still kind of be okay. It's still important, but you may not need to charge that battery as much. It may hold it longer. So choose that one thing. And here's the plan. I want you to decide when you're going to do that. What day? What time? And remember, this is just an experiment. You're going to see what impact this has in your life. And if you don't like it, you can always go back to the status quo. Nobody's stopping you. So when will you do it? And then I want you to write down where you will be when you do this thing. I will meditate when? 5:30 in the morning. Where? Sitting in the recliner or standing so I don't fall back to sleep. And if there's a part of your day that's near there, let's stack those two things together. After I brush my teeth in the morning, I will immediately drop down and 10 push-ups to get some exercise in for my body. So there's your plan. And what I need you to realize is that less can be more. And you're busy, you got lots going on. Carving out this one little bit of time will start to show you that you can make this work, you can juggle it. And as you do it, you're going to build momentum. Because you can't do something in one area of your life and not have it spill over into the other areas. When I went for a run last week, I thought to myself, well, just put in all this effort at a run, I better eat healthy today. And I didn't have to force myself to eat healthy. I wanted to because I was like, well, I went for a run, now I have to be healthy. It makes you want to care for yourself in every other area. And maybe your self-care and taking care of your body is just going to bed. Maybe we should add sleep to that list because that's really up there and we skimp on it. Try to go to bed 20 minutes early. I went to bed at 9:30 twice this week. It was so awesome. We're laying there in bed and I was reading and I'm like, this is nice. And my wife says, I'm tired. And I'm like, cool, let's go to bed. And I laid there and I was like, holy cow, I can lay here for like 20 minutes and not worry about falling asleep so I get enough rest. I got all the time in the world. And because I was relaxed, I immediately fell asleep. It was so good. When I woke up, guys, I felt so much better. Sleep is a good one to add to that list. So you're going to build momentum. And when you find something that's working, take the momentum and roll it over. Choose one other little thing. It doesn't have to take a long time. Just let it build on itself. But track this in your journal. Keep track of how it works and how you feel and figure out what the essential needs are.
And maybe if self-talk is the thing that you have a hard time with, guilt is the thing you have a hard time with, then you start there and just say, I said no about that, and I'm not going to let the little devil on my shoulder tell me I have to feel guilty about it. Or just start like trying to shift your mindset, maybe has to be the first thing.
Yeah, and you can just, every time, my self-care is, every time I hear the voice of guilt, I will pause what I'm doing and say out loud, it's okay for me to meet my needs. It is the moral purpose of my life to be happy and I matter. And that could be it. Like I said, it doesn't have to be crazy.
Say that again.
So this is the beginning.
I need that mantra again. I'm going to type it in the chat. It's okay for me to, so you said if the guilt starts coming, then you say to yourself, say it again, what you would say.
It's okay for me to meet my needs. My happiness is the moral purpose of my life, and I matter enough to spend time on myself. And another thing to add to that, if you want to feel like you matter, you have to treat yourself like you matter. Working through this mental aspect is important. You got to fight these voices, but taking some kind of action, then telling the voices to shut up afterwards, will start to build this. I try to eat really healthy. If I stop exercising, I start eating unhealthily. If you just, I ran around the block, put in some effort, good for me. Now I don't want to eat junk food as much. Start one thing, it builds momentum, it spreads to every other area. But if you want to feel like you have value, you have to treat yourself like you have value. put in the extra work, and that will grow. Self-esteem will grow. Self-compassion will grow as you spend time and energy on your health. And for some of you, this might be kind of a new world we're entering, new self-exploration, but I've got to tell you, your joy is going to increase, and it's all for taking these simple steps. And when you put all of these simple steps together that we've talked about today and that I talk about in all the other classes here, you will start to have all the tools that you need to build the life of your dreams. So if this is your first class, welcome. If this is you're an old timer around here, I hope this is another awesome tool to add to your tool belt. Putting them together makes your life better. You simply can't take the action, not have it impact your life in some way. And are you going to fail at this? Yes, we all suck on ice sometimes, and that's fine. What matters is just picking yourself up and trying again. All progress is failing forward. We are tripping towards the finish line. The only thing that matters is getting up and trying again. So tomorrow, when you get to your time, you're like, oh, it's time for the self-care, and the voice overwhelms you and says, no, the kids come first. You'll be like, oh, crap. You're like, all right, time to try again. Maybe I can do this in 10 minutes instead. Find a way forward, and don't worry about how many times you fall down. Sound good?
Yeah.